The transfer of power in Washington is always a momentous occasion. A new president brings his own vision, his own priorities, and his own style to the Oval Office. And for Donald J. Trump, that transfer of power began not with soaring rhetoric, but with decisive action. On the day of his inauguration, Donald Trump signed several executive orders. Let's take a look at what they are. These are not mere formalities. These are direct orders, instructions to the vast machinery of the federal government, setting in motion the policies that will define his presidency. The first, and perhaps most symbolic order, dealt with immigration. The executive order on border security and immigration enforcement improvements directed federal agencies to begin construction of a wall along the US-Mexico border. This was a signature campaign promise, a physical embodiment of Trump's commitment to stemming illegal immigration. But the order went further, calling for increased patrols, additional detention facilities, and a crackdown on so-called sanctuary cities. The message was clear. Trump intended to take a hard line on immigration, a stance that had already drawn both praise and fierce criticism. This was just the beginning. The first volley in what promised to be a long and contentious battle over one of the most divisive issues in American politics. The second order, the executive order on enhancing public safety in the interior of the United States, aimed to bolster immigration enforcement within the country's interior. This meant empowering local law enforcement to act as de facto immigration agents, increasing deportations, and targeting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. Critics argued that this would lead to racial profiling and erode trust in immigrant communities. Supporters, however, applauded the move, arguing that it was about enforcing the rule of law and protecting American citizens. Perhaps the most controversial order, the executive order on protecting the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States, placed temporary restrictions on travel from several Muslim-majority countries. The Trump administration argued this was necessary to prevent terrorism and vet potential immigrants. The order sparked chaos and confusion at airports across the country, as travelers were detained and protests erupted. Legal challenges quickly followed, with critics denouncing the order as discriminatory and unconstitutional. Moving beyond immigration, Trump signed the executive order on reducing regulation and controlling regulatory costs. This order was music to the ears of businesses who had long complained about what they saw as burdensome government overreach. The 2-for-1 rule, requiring the elimination of 2 regulations for every new one implemented, was a centerpiece of this effort. Trump argued that this would unleash economic growth and create jobs, while critics feared it would gut essential protections for workers, consumers, and the environment. In a nod to his campaign promise to drain the swamp, Trump signed the executive order on ethics commitments by executive branch appointees. This order imposed a 5-year lobbying ban on executive branch officials after they left government service. It was an attempt to address concerns about the revolving door between government and the private sector, a system that many saw as rife with conflicts of interest. Whether this order would be enough to satisfy critics and bring about real change remained to be seen. These 5 executive orders, signed in the opening hours of his presidency, offered a clear glimpse into Donald Trump's priorities and his governing style. They were bold, some would say brash pronouncements, a clear signal that Trump intended to shake up Washington and overturn the status quo. These executive orders marked the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency and set the tone for his administration's priorities. The impacts of these orders will continue to be felt for years to come. The debates they ignited over immigration, national security, the role of government, and the very nature of American identity are far from over. Only time will tell what the ultimate legacy of these first decisive actions will be. Stay tuned for more updates on how these orders will impact the nation.